Hey, what's up, boys? This video is for those who feel tremendously empty. You almost feel like it's exhausting to live another second. I mean, you tell yourself these kinds of things at least. You don't want to be conscious about what's happening around you because that's so tiring. There's no point in doing anything. There's no point in doing things well. You feel this constant weird numbness in your heart every second of the day. It's like a very subtle form of anxiety telling you should do something, but at the same time you really don't feel like it. You don't find anything exciting or particularly interesting, and you find yourself having very existential dread kind of opinion towards life. You know, everything is inherently meaningless. We live just to die. You don't really care about anything. Achievements mean nothing. Relationships mean nothing. In conventional psychology, the feeling of emptiness is a component of aloneness or social disconnectedness. It's generally a deep sense of personal unfulfillment or a lack of purpose. And I think generally these feelings of emptiness are under the term anhedonia, which is the lack of interest, enjoyment, or pleasure from life's experiences. You may not want to spend time with others or do activities that previously made you happy. This anhedonia is a very common symptom of many mental health conditions. And I think what we're experiencing is anhedonia combined with some level of existential dread, combined with the lack of purpose and responsibility. I mean, look at our world today. Our population is huge. And besides that, we are all interconnected through social media to the point where the part we play in our own lives could seem so insignificant when we look online. Our value is now determined by the number of followers we have, the amount of likes we have, and if we play an important role to our community, our immediate community, but people outside of that don't know it, it almost feels like we don't play a part in the general scope of things at all. And it feels like only those with sufficient social media followers play a significant role in the world's community. And if we don't feel like we play a part in some way, we are contributing to something, we are needed, we are appreciated, that can very much lead to a loss of purpose, because it just feels like the things we're doing, no matter how much we sacrifice, whatever we achieve isn't that important after all, in a global context. But if we look at smaller groups of people, for example our family, we can very much make significant contribution to those we care about. Carl Jung believed that most cases of anxiety and depression are not the product of a faulty brain, but a faulty way of life. I want to jump into what we can do against these feelings of emptiness and purposeless and general sense of meaninglessness, and see what we can do to reignite our flames, because right now we are in the thick of it, and everybody knows, they know me where it snows and I skied in and they froze. Let's look at what the culture is like now. The obsession with looking within, the individualism. We can't help but keep reminding ourselves to talk about our problems because we see it encouraged all the time. We should talk about our problems. We should acknowledge our emotions. And sometimes the extent we take this self-reflection steps into the realm of rumination, which is basically the number one symptom of depression. Rumination is a pattern of repetitive negative thinking that can be distressing and difficult to stop. If you're somebody who ruminates a shit ton, you'll be replaying past scenarios, thinking about the same things in circles, trying to predict how something will play out so you're safe. It's like you're constantly worried and anxious, and it's something a little bit more irritating than overthinking. Let's look at a little Alfred Adler perspective, our favorite psychotherapist. Alfred Adler is very big on the whole sense of community thing. Adler believes that humans are social beings and therefore all behavior is socially embedded and has social meaning. Adler believed that we all have one basic desire and goal, and that is to belong and feel significant. And because the culture is now to think inward, to ruminate, to speak about our problems, to achieve things for ourselves, to do it for ourselves. I'm doing this for myself. Oh, they're all gonna regret not knowing me better when I'm weak because now I'm gonna be stronger. This contemporary individualism philosophy that we all hold on to in today's day and age is probably taking away from the sense of community. We think too much about ourselves and how we appear and what we can do for ourselves and how we can change our own lives rather than how we can contribute, how we can help someone. It's come to a point where attention has become fucking transactional. If she doesn't text me this much, I can't text her that much. And it's sad, man. If this person doesn't ever help me, I'm not even gonna fucking try helping him, right? Not saying that you should help someone who doesn't help you, but maybe we should drop being so over concerned about whether the transaction is equal and fair. and we're getting equal value from one another. Like, every relationship is all based on utility, and that sucks, man. So our feelings of emptiness could come from the lack of sense of community, could come from not having the sense of duty to provide and contribute, because it seems like nobody wants to contribute to us anyway, so why should we even give back? Adler believed that throughout one's life, the goal of belonging is fundamental to human nature. If we don't feel like we're playing an important role, we don't feel like we're contributing, maybe it's time to step up and increase our value and our competence to provide for other people with the belief and trust that they are going to do whatever they can to provide for us too. You could argue that's a naive perspective, but if you looked at the world that way, you probably contribute more, and selectively, confirmation bias, you will also see people contributing more to you. And in that way, your whole ideology could change in a few weeks' time. Sure, you could think that you're changing a life on a foundation of a lie, but how is this a lie? It's just a different perspective, and you're going to notice it's true once you lean into it. Just like the perspective you have now that everything is meaningless, you only find it to be true because you're leaning into it. We see a lot of evidence for the things we want to believe, so generally we will believe what is convenient for us to believe, and if we can have some influence in that, we can kind of shape what we want to believe, then we can shape where we go, the people we meet. We can shape the perspective we have on the world, we can shape the perspective we have of other people, and from there we could possibly lead a happier and more fulfilling life. People also talk about interdependence. There's a social pressure for us to be competent and provide to a group, and sometimes we might mistake that to be a lie. People trying to brainwash us in order to be good and useful and a obedient little boy that would give up his life for other people. Sure, we must be quite critical of what we're socially pressured to believe, and we'll notice that generally when people are incompetent, lazy or stupid, they are shunned by the general public or the group of people because they provide no value. They're not even funny. They can't even sing the whole thick of its song. I think this philosophy of community feeling and contributing to other people in order to get the sense of belonging is another understanding of interdependence. And however much we want to shun social pressure, I think the weight of relationships to us as individuals is just too much to transcend. Like, we are going to be human at the end of the day. This is going to mean something to us. Social pressure means something to us. And without looking at what people value, we won't find our place in the world relative to other people. And because of that, we may never feel fulfilled or feel a sense of social belongingness. Adler suggests that the community feeling is the answer to overcoming this antisocial and criminal behaviors. And having social interest, the willingness to provide to the group, gives people an optimistic perspective on life and an impetus to develop the welfare of others. And I think the first thing we consider is, why should I give back to others if I don't feel like they've ever given me anything? What if it's precisely because you haven't given enough to others that they don't give you anything? Or what if they do give you things but you have selectively chosen not to see it? And these are very broad assumptions. I don't know what you're going through. And I want to naively suggest that people do give and contribute to one another if we do open our eyes to it. But I'm only 20 years old and I've only made this observation that when I deliberately tried to see it, when I looked out for people contributing to me, I could see it. And I saw it way more than I did when I didn't try to deliberately see it. And I also focused on the actions I took to give back to people rather than looking at contribution as a whole as a transactional thing, And as I leaned towards that ideology, I found that more people contributed to me and I contributed to more people, and I felt fulfillment in that, even if they didn't appreciate it. I kind of brainwashed myself out of the lie that everything is inherently meaningless and nobody cares and everybody's mean and ruthless and humans are disgusting, self-obsessed beings who are inherently selfish. When I started giving to people, no matter what my intentions were, then I found that my intentions became more and more genuine to want to give. Even though in the past it was conducted by thoughts of, I want their appreciation, I want to seem attractive and good and virtuous so that I'm respected and women will fawn over me. You know, they would trip over a door, turn into an anime character, and their tits will fall in my face just because, I don't know, I sat there and listened to them talk for 30 minutes. You know, the fact that we are afraid other people are inherently selfish and won't give back to our niceness simply because we are selfish and we expect our niceness to be perfectly reciprocated, like some sort of hidden fee, you know, opening a door for someone and then taking out a gun, and if they don't open the next fucking door for you, it's over for them, even though you chose to open the door for them. That's essentially what being a typical nice guy is. And I make that example because, you know, people could be resentful that generally other people don't give back to their kindness and their selflessness. But look, it isn't selflessness if you eventually get resentful. Alright, then it was never selflessness to begin with. You always wanted something back, but you masked it as selflessness in order to have that virtuous points so that you eventually get something back. Adler also says this, which I really like: human conduct is not exclusively specified by heredity and the environment. Individuals can analyze, impact, set goals, and act purposefully. You know, the power of cosmic choice. We have the freedom to choose the decisions we want to make in the current moment, no matter our predicament. At least that is what is best for us to believe. Every individual establishes objectives that provide security and give them a place in life. We establish these objectives depending on our private logic, a reasoning we invent to stimulate and justify a style of life. And as we become familiar with our unique private philosophy, we develop a healthy view of the world. That wonderful phenomenon indicates that each of us perceives a situation from a unique perspective. You know, we all live and operate as if our idea of the world is accurate and correct. When society distorts an individual's perspective, their emotions become destructive and distorted. This could be why it's incredibly unhealthy to expose ourselves to so many perspectives on social media. Everybody thinks differently. We will never fortify our own ideology, our own opinions and purposes, if we expose ourselves to so many ideas at the same time, concurrently, every single day, every single hour, because we're just scrolling on social media all the time. I imagine it can be very confusing and growth inhibiting. Another suggestion I want to make is these feelings of emptiness could be because we spent a lot of time avoiding things that we wanted to do but were afraid of. We lack courage, and because of that, we box ourselves into a corner to the point where we don't want anything anymore. We make up this idea that we don't care because it's too scary to try. And because of that, we have nothing going for us. We feel like we can't do anything well. And then before you know it, we develop this ideology that why do anything if it's meaningless anyway? Because it's easier to think that way than to try and fail. You know, life is an experience. If you really didn't care about anything anyway, why don't you just try random things then? But you wouldn't, because you'd rather settle with the thought that it is too meaningless than to be seen failing. So it could very much be a lack of courage as well. This is another very naive suggestion, but some people need to hear that because that's exactly what they're doing. In Adlerian therapy, they like to ask this question: how would your life be recognizably different if you no longer had this issue? If you no longer had those mental inhibitants, you didn't have these feelings of emptiness, what would you be doing? If you didn't think everything was meaningless, what would you be doing? You'll probably say absolutely nothing because everything is meaningless, right? But maybe if you actually sit on the question and genuinely try to find the answer for it, you might see what you actually want to see changed in your lives. And you might just feel a little bit motivated because you begin to comprehend that you might have the resources and abilities to overcome that problem that you just identified. In today's day-to-day life, there are way too many safety nets. You know, we don't actually have to fight to survive. My parents already has my house paid for. If I actually wanted, I could just rot away and still live in this house after they're dead, which would be an absolute retard move of me, but I could actually do that. We can get by through government welfare and part-time jobs. You know, we're gonna be alive. The goal to survive is basically already achieved. Our biological necessities are basically fulfilled, except sex, because you're probably a loner. So we're kind of forced to find fulfillment and meaning outside of our biological instincts. I think these exhausting feelings of emptiness could come from not having significant relationships that you feel somewhat responsible for. I think generally it could come from a lack of courage. It's easier to think that everything is inherently meaningless and nobody cares about you and nobody will give back, so you don't have to give back. than to become competent at your responsibilities. That is definitely a possibility, although it's not true for everyone. You could have a perpetual tendency to dissociate when things get rough and run away. And the problem with that is soon you run out of places to run. Another possibility that you feel empty is you could be putting your own needs and wants aside too much due to people-pleasing tendencies, or you have anxious ambivalent attachment style, which is basically your foundation to your people-pleasing tendencies. You could also be underscoring life due to social media. Your life just seems so much more uninteresting, lack of color, compared to the things you see online. Which in that case, you should probably try your best to quit social media and just focus on developing your relationships and your experiences and taking more opportunity in your own life. I have a feeling that people who feel empty might just need a strong, certain, and decisive voice to give them exact direction. I can't bring myself to do that because I just don't know enough and lack credibility to do that for people. If I wrote a letter to the version of myself who felt exhaustingly empty, I'll probably tell him that, you haven't found the people you'd perfectly resonate with yet. You haven't found her yet. Though emotions can't be relied on, they tell us what we value and what we care about. And that's important. I don't think emotions should be entirely ignored, no matter how much people like to preach that do it when you don't feel like it because discipline, right? But emotions also add weight to things. They tell you what you value, so it's important. Imagine a life that would excite you. She's by your side, you've got wonderful friends that will sacrifice for one another, you travel around the world and have fun, and you know that they are your people. You're doing right by your parents, you're able to use your resources to change the world around you. And that version of yourself where you'll be excited to live, that could be you. I think we should try to find out what we care about and get really, really good at it. And maybe day by day we'll find super duper cool people and grow to love them. And before you know it, you're involuntarily and happily glued to the world. You'll finally feel like you're part of something. To me, relationships are everything. And if you find that to be the case for you too, find out how you can help someone to the best of your ability, genuinely. Really sitting on that thought helped me feel like I belonged way more to the world. I have this belief that we all hold faith in something to remain conscientious or to continue to live. And this could come in many forms of things, generally it's religion. For many others, it comes from our relationships, the soulmate God idea where we're gonna meet her, our perfect ideal lady. This faith can come in ambition, passion, a sense of duty. I think generally this faith manifests itself from a multitude of different motivators and factors. And these all come together and keep us willing to survive. It's probably not from one thing that would motivate us to be conscientious and let us hold on to that sense of duty that we have to do right by the people around us and we want to do the things we do well. This probably comes from a combination of all religion, relationship, ambition, passion, responsibility, and little things that tie us to the world and make us care. This is another naive suggestion from me, but perhaps what somebody who feels empty and exhausted and everything's meaningless would need is to actually just start doing the work without needing to or without any motivation to. If anything is meaningless anyway, your time and capacity is as well, so might as well use those to go and run some errands, clean up the house, do some exercise, just start taking actions on random things that people generally preach as good for you. And I think through running these earnest errands, that's actually where the story lies. That's where we kind of build momentum. We have more stories to tell, more stories to hold on to, more things to keep our mind from wandering to stupid places. And as we take action and put in this earnest effort and do the little things, we feel more responsible. We feel like we're contributing. Suddenly somebody shows us some appreciation and then we feel a little bit more purposeful. And here and there things could start to get better. I think for most people what they might need is to take life seriously before they have a reason to. I think there are many people who want to get rid of these feelings of emptiness, think that the solution is to find a reason to live, to theorize meaning. And I don't think this meaning comes from thinking, but by doing. Many times we won't know something is meaningful until we've done it. We could dread something, think it's absolutely pointless, do it, suffer, and then it becomes something meaningful. I think as we put in earnest effort to run errands, do the little things, care about people, do things for people, or perhaps do things for ourselves, that could be what we need. I think possibly by ignoring the thoughts we have and finding out what we care about along the way by just doing things, things start to make sense. people start to matter. And because we're doing things, maybe we feel more responsible, we feel like we're contributing. Maybe people start showing us appreciation because we're actually doing the thing now. I want to say this again. I think what we need is to take life seriously before we have a reason to. That is certainly what helped me a shit ton when I felt empty as fuck. Not that I'm better than you or anything, or that I know what will work for you, or that there's perfect evidence to support this opinion. It's just something I'm slapping out there, and maybe it could help somebody. Anyways, don't give up, hold on to hope. The fact that you even watched this video all the way through to try to fix yourself, it's already evidence that you're probably going to get through this, because you're trying your best to hold on to putting in effort and being responsible and trying to find purpose. You know, at least you're not just going to accept it. So there's still a little bit of fight in you left. Don't give up, you got this. I'm rooting for you. I'm praying that some anime girl with humongous voluptuous titties falls on your face, and then you know, your life just explodes into color. But that probably won't happen, so you might want to try fixing your life by yourself first. But of course, you know, ideally we will all want a giant anime titty to fall on our face. Okay, that's enough. I love you. So back to work.